Okay. Consider this for a second. What if getting a massive, expensive truck was more like, I don't know, subscribing to Netflix? You need it, you pay your fee. Don't need it, you scale back, maybe even cancel. Sounds a bit wild, right? But this isn't science fiction. It's happening now in hauling. It's called truck as a service, or TaaS. So our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack TaaS. How is it changing the game for companies using these big rigs for hauling? Because it really feels like a massive shift for the industry. Makes trucks maybe more accessible, more cost-effective. And we're basing this on a really fascinating source. It's titled Truck as a Service, the subscription future of hauling. Really lays out this whole model. So let's start right at the beginning. What exactly is Truck as a Service? Why is it popping up right now? Can you clarify what TaaS really means for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So TaaS fundamentally means companies don't have to buy these big trucks outright anymore, which is huge. Instead, they subscribe. They pay a fee, could be monthly, could be based on miles driven, maybe even per hour used. You should think of it, well, less like a standard lease and more like a tailored service package, specifically built for heavy trucks,
Yeah.
built for efficiency.
Okay, that distinction's important. Not just leasing, but smarter.
Yeah.
So maybe paint a picture for us. Contrast the, let's call it the old way with this new way. We hear the traditional approach is a major headache for businesses. What are some of those maybe less obvious challenges with just buying and owning a truck?
Oh, definitely. The traditional way, well, it demands this enormous upfront cost. We're talking, what, $150,000, sometimes much more, for just one truck. That's like buying a house almost.
Wow.
And that's just the beginning. After that huge check you write, you're constantly worried about repairs popping up out of nowhere, right? Plus, managing tires, sorting out complicated insurance, and then, inevitably, watching that expensive asset just lose value over time. Depreciation. It just ties up so much capital, creates a lot of financial stress, and honestly, it pulls focus from just running your business.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
So given all those headaches with the old way, how exactly does TaaS offer a complete contrast? What does this new way actually look like day to day for a company?
It's a total shift in thinking. With TaaS, you're subscribing directly from a provider. You pay a simple, predictable fee, maybe monthly, maybe per mile, like we said, and boom, you get a new truck ready to go. But here's the real kicker. Maintenance, repairs, insurance, even getting the latest tech, it's all bundled into that fee.
All of it.
Pretty much. Your company pays for fuel and the miles you actually drive. It turns this massive, risky capital expense into a predictable operating cost, much easier to budget.
That predictability alone sounds like a huge win for any business owner. It really does feel like a significant shift. So what are the key benefits then? What really makes TaaS a potential game changer, starting with those huge upfront costs you mentioned?
Well, eliminating that massive initial investment is foundational. No need to find $150,000 plus just to get started or expand. This immediately makes trucks affordable for a much wider range of companies. Think about startups, smaller businesses trying to grow.
Right, lowers the barrier to entry significantly.
Even established companies that want to expand efficiently without tying up all their credit lines.
And beyond just buying the truck, you mentioned the ongoing ownership headaches. When you say maintenance and repairs are included, is that truly everything? Or are there catches? And how does that help a business stay nimble?
Generally, yes. These subscriptions aim to be pretty comprehensive. Scheduled maintenance, unexpected breakdowns, support, it's usually covered. Now, specifics can vary a bit between providers. You'd always check the fine print, naturally.
Of course.
But the critical point is, it gets rid of those horrible surprise repair bills that can just wreck your budget for the month or even the quarter. And maybe even more importantly, it cuts down on costly downtime dramatically.
Because if the truck's in the shop.
It's not earning money. Simple as that. By handing off the maintenance burden, TaaS keeps the wheels turning, keeps operations flowing.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about flexibility? You hear about needing more trucks for the holidays or maybe a slow period. Can companies really scale up or down easily with this, with something as big as a Chief?
Yeah, this is where TaaS really, really shines. Need more capacity during your busy season, or maybe a big unexpected contract comes in.
Yeah.
You can add trucks relatively easily. Then when things quiet down, you can scale back. You essentially only pay for the truck capacity you're actually using. That's a massive advantage, especially when markets fluctuate or business is seasonal.
That is huge. And you touched on tech earlier, too. Does TaaS mean companies basically get to drive the newest, safest trucks all the time without constantly buying new ones?
That's exactly the idea. Subscribers often get access to the latest safety features, think collision avoidance, better monitoring. Plus the most fuel-efficient engines, maybe even better driver comforts. All without that long-term commitment and the worry about, owning outdated tech in 5 years.
Right, or the depreciation hit.
Precisely. It keeps fleets modern, efficient, compliant with new rules, keeps businesses competitive on the tech front.
So if you bundle all these advantages together, lower cost barrier, less maintenance hassle, flexibility, new tech, what does it ultimately mean for a company trying to just, run its business?
Well, zooming out, it really frees companies from the operational drag and the financial weight of owning trucks. They stop worrying so much about managing fleet logistics, tracking asset depreciation, budgeting for surprise repairs, and instead they can pour all that energy, all those resources back into their core mission. Delivering freight effectively, finding better routes, serving their customers, growing the actual business.
Right, focus on what they do best.
Exactly. It's about streamlining operations, staying lean, staying focused, staying competitive.
That sounds incredibly efficient. And you mentioned this isn't just theory. Our source points to Volvo being a real leader here. How does their specific pay-per-mile program work? What makes it stand out?
Volvo's definitely carrying this forward. Their pay-per-mile program is, well, pretty much what it sounds like. Companies are charged based only on the actual miles the truck drives,
Literally just the miles.
just the miles. So if the truck's hauling freight, making money, you pay for those miles. But if it's parked, maybe waiting for its next load, or even just stopped for a quick driver break or check,
Your costs drop right down.
your costs are minimal, maybe even zero for that park time, depending on the exact structure. It gives companies this incredible granular control over operating expenses.
Wow. That must be crucial in today's market, with fuel prices all over the place and demand shifting.
Incredibly crucial. It makes costs directly proportional to revenue generation, which is sort of the dream, right? Especially in unpredictable times.
That level of control, that responsiveness, it really feels like the future direction. And the fact that a giant like Volvo is all in on this.
It really underscores the significance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It tells you that the major players, the big manufacturers, see this subscription model not just as some small side offering, but as a fundamental part of the future of trucking.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly positive, almost too good to be true sometimes. But with any big change like this, there's got to be some, potential hurdles or complexities we haven't touched on. What might companies run into when they try to adopt TaaS? Or what are some maybe longer-term ripples for the industry?
That's a really good question. It's important to look at both sides. While the benefits are clear, there are definitely things to consider. For one, just the shift in budgeting, moving from owning assets, capital expenditure, to purely operational expenditure that takes some adjustment internally for companies.
Right, changing accounting practices, mindset.
Exactly. Then there's the potential for maybe vendor lock-in. If you become very reliant on one TaaS provider, what happens if their terms change down the line or service isn't quite up to par? Switching might not be simple.
That's a fair point.
There's also the whole used truck market to think about. If fewer new trucks are being sold outright to fleets, how does that ripple through the supply and pricing for secondhand trucks? It could definitely change things.
Interesting.
And from the provider side, scaling up their maintenance network, their support infrastructure to handle potentially thousands of subscribed trucks, that's a big operational challenge. They need really solid service agreements to guarantee that uptime they're promising.
Those are definitely crucial points, add some important nuance. So, okay, considering the upsides and those potential complexities, who really stands to benefit the most here? It seems like it could shake things up for a lot of different types of businesses.
Yeah, it casts a pretty wide net in terms of beneficiaries. Small fleets, for example. They can suddenly grow their operations without needing these huge, often prohibitive bank loans for trucks.
Takes away a major growth barrier.
Absolutely. Then you've got new companies just starting out. They can enter the market with much lower financial risk and less operational complexity from day one.
Makes entrepreneurship in trucking more accessible.
Potentially, yes. And think about seasonal businesses, agriculture, maybe holiday deliveries. They can access trucks precisely when they need them and not carry the cost of idle assets the rest of the year.
That makes perfect sense.
Even the big established fleets can benefit. Better cost management, faster tech upgrades across potentially hundreds of vehicles without massive capital dumps. It helps keep their fleet modern and efficient.
So it sounds like almost everyone gains something.
In a way, yes. And indirectly, you could argue everyone benefits from potentially safer roads if more fleets are running newer trucks with better tech. Plus, better budgeting across the industry could lead to more stability overall.
Our source actually uses a neat little analogy to explain this. It says, imagine you loved toy trucks as a kid. You could buy one, right? But maybe you want different kinds all the time, or you only play on weekends. So instead, you go to a toy library, pick out any truck you want, play with it, bring it back. You just pay for the time you used it, no storing it, no fixing it if it breaks.
That's it.
And that's basically TaaS, just with real massive trucks.
It perfectly captures the idea. The future of trucking, it really looks smarter, safer, and just more efficient this way, especially with, fuel costs being what they are and regulations always evolving. The industry needs this kind of agility.
Yeah.
Owning trucks outright is starting to feel a bit like, I don't know, owning a huge DVD collection. It was great once, but it's expensive, bulky, and the tech moves on.
Okay, I see that.
Whereas subscription trucking is much more like streaming music or movies. It's flexible, it's usually more affordable upfront, and it adapts to what you need when you need it. It lets companies stay nimble, react faster to the market, and basically stay competitive.
So pulling back for the big picture then, TaaS isn't just a different payment plan for a truck. It sounds more like a whole new operating model for trucking businesses, making it more accessible, maybe more efficient, easier to run overall.
That's a great way to put it. It offers this freedom to grow or scale without taking on those enormous financial risks, whether you're a giant fleet or just starting with one truck.
Okay, so to sort of wrap this up, we've really explored how trucking seems to be shifting, moving away from that traditional model of just buying and owning everything towards something much more flexible, subscription-based, kind of like we've seen happen with software, entertainment, so many other areas.
Exactly. It's a pattern.
And understanding this TaaS concept seems pretty valuable, right? Because it touches everything. Logistics, how supply chains work, maybe even wider economic trends. It's changing how goods get moved.
It really is. And maybe a final thought for you to ponder. The next time you're on the highway and see one of those big rigs, remember, the logo on the door might not mean they actually own that truck.
Right.
It could easily be part of, the hottest subscription service in town.
Huh?
And it makes you think, if this model works for something as big, as complex, as expensive as a heavy-duty truck, what other industries, what other big assets might be next in line for this kind of subscription revolution?